Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me without the microphone?
Yeah.
Good. Well, what an extraordinary time in which we're living, aren't we? I had the pleasure this morning of spending an hour in the company of Jose Manuel Barroso,
Poor
the
you.
Commission President. And I must say, so far this evening, you, the audience here, have been a jolly sight friendlier to me than he was this morning. He is presiding over a disaster, a total disaster. That what they've actually managed to achieve is that the continent of Europe, which, when we all grew up, was divided from west to east, wasn't it, by the Berlin Wall. The wall came down, and what they've managed to achieve with the euro is they've now divided Europe from north to south, with the southern Mediterranean countries, who were never ever suited to joining the euro, having joined the euro, having had far too cheaper interest rates for 10 years, they've all been on this most enormous party, haven't they? Massive house building, people retiring on 2/3 salary at 53 years old in Greece, having a wonderful time. But as all of us who like to party, and I'm one of them, as all of us know, that if you party too hard, there's always a price to pay the next day, isn't there? And my goodness me, they're now paying a price. Because we now have these southern European countries imprisoned inside a currency that is massively overvalued for their needs, and they're being told that they have to have austerity measures that will drive them not into recession, it will drive them into depression. In fact, I think the situation is so serious, I'd be very surprised if there wasn't actually a revolution in Greece and the colonels didn't take over once again. That is just how mad, bad, crazy and dangerous this whole package is. And in the north of Europe, the voters in the Eurozone and elsewhere are saying, we don't want to pay for this. You know, the Germans have spent 20 years paying for Eastern Germany to be reincorporated. They don't want to sign an open-ended blank cheque to Greece or Portugal, let alone Italy. And so across Northern Europe, we're seeing new political parties picking up huge percentages of the vote. And perhaps the biggest irony is that this project that was supposed to bring the peoples of Europe together so they'd love each other and be part of one state is now making everyone hate each other. You know, in Athens, they're burning EU flags with swastikas daubed on them. They have cartoons in the Greek press of Angela Merkel wearing Nazi insignia. And in the German press, you know, Bild, which is their equivalent of the Sun newspaper, every day there are stories about how corrupt, useless and lazy the Greeks are. So the irony of all of this is that everybody hates each other, and the right solution would be, and actually, if we were good Europeans in its genuine sense, the thing we should be doing is actually helping Greece, and helping Portugal, and helping Ireland, and perhaps even helping Italy to get out of this failed Euro project, to get their democracy back, to get their currency back, and to be able once again to stand on their own 2 feet. That's what we should be doing. But what is our Prime Minister doing? Our Prime Minister and Boy George, the Chancellor. I'm sorry if you think I'm slightly rude about politicians. I'm generally much politer than you might think, with one exception, which is Herman van Rompuy. And there I confess it is deeply personal, but perhaps more of him later. The reason I am somewhat disparaging about our politicians is that actually it's become almost irrelevant whether Cameron, Clegg, Miliband, Osborne, it's become actually rather irrelevant what party they're in. Because if you think about it, they all stand for exactly the same things. On really big issues that matter to the people of this country, frankly, you can't put a cigarette paper between them. And there's one common denominator with all the big party leaders in this country, every single one of them has an identical background. They all come from very wealthy families. They all went to the very best schools. They all went to Oxford or Cambridge. And they all have never done a day's work in their lives. None. Absolutely none. They've all gone straight from university into research offices, become members of parliament, and now, God help us, the college kids are running the country. And that's one of the big differences, I think, about UKIP. You know, we are a party, we are a movement of real people from a broad range of backgrounds. And I myself spent 20 years working in the real world, working in the commodity business, working in the City of London. As I always say to people, I worked damn hard in the city for 20 years up until lunchtime every day. So we're people with some experience of life. And what I just offered to you with the Eurozone crisis is a pragmatic solution. But no. What our Prime Minister wants to do, and what he's already done, is he's committed money to the Greek bailout. He's committed money to the Irish bailout. He's committed money to the Portuguese bailout. Already, we have committed 12 billion sterling to bailing out Eurozone countries who, as I said before, should never have joined the currency in the first place, and countries that are actually going bankrupt. But not satisfied with that, we have now decided that we're going to increase our contribution to the International Monetary Fund to a cool 40 billion sterling.
Is that right? So
already, every household in this country is on the hook to the Eurozone with the bailouts for £500 per household. And what we're proposing to do through the IMF is to treble that. So that every household in this country is risking effectively £1,500 per household in a desperate attempt to keep Greece and Portugal and ultimately Italy inside the euro. You know, it's a bit like a friend of yours. You know, you've lent him a couple of £1,000 because he was in trouble. And he comes back to you and he wants to borrow another couple of £1,000. There comes a point to say, cut and run, because he's going bankrupt anyway. All we're doing is we're pouring good money after bad. And the message that's coming out from us as UKIP is not one more penny piece of British taxpayers' money should be used to bail out Eurozone countries who need to be set free. Not one penny. And for those of you that have never been to a UKIP meeting before, perhaps I'm going to deal with one or two of the prejudices that occur about us. How many of you here are not members of UKIP? Hands up. Right, most of you. Okay, lock the doors, please, will you? We're not going to let you go until you join. Listen, you may have read or heard things about UKIP. You may well have heard that we're anti-European, as if we hate everything and everybody south of Calais. This, I can assure you, is utter nonsense. I myself am married to a European. I worked in my career for 2 French companies. All right, they both sacked me, but I'm trying not to bear run. And I'm more than happy to drink a glass of Rioja with anybody. I mean, look, we love Europe. What we love about Europe is its cultural diversity. It's the fact there are different languages, there are different histories, there are different cultures. What we hate is this idea that they should all be forced together into one new state, governed by people like Mr. Barroso and my old mate Herman Van Trumpy Humpy. That's what we're opposed to. That's what we're opposed to.